it's going to be different. But again, we got the same type of approach where we've got to, develop go-to-market, do things like account mapping with them, and then provide them the sales enablement tools that they need to help be successful.
Hello and welcome to the Healthtech Marketing Podcast, brought to you by Health Launchpad and HIMSS. And I'm Adam Chirinas. I'm the Health Launchpad's founder and CEO, and I'm your host for today. This podcast is also brought to you by HIMSS. I want to give a big thank you to HIMSS for all your support. And I also want to give a big thank you to you for listening or watching the video. And I'm really delighted to introduce our guest, somebody I've got to know over the last year, really awesome guy called Nick Kagal. Nick is the Director of Marketing for SpinSci Technologies. So, let's kick things off, Nick. First of all, Nick, welcome to the show, but tell us a little bit about SpinSci and where does that name come from?
So the name has an interesting origin, and it really comes from our CEO and founder, Rajat Kumar. And he, he's completely bootstrapped this organization and built it up from nothing. And he was at a point, or he was actually out of the oil and gas industry, was kind of looking for something to do, and was looking to. He said, "I'm going to start my own deal, my own thing." And so he knew he wanted to have something, kind of in the technical, and this is, probably before we even started really focusing on healthcare, but something in the technical area. And he and his father started kind of, just kind of spitballing names. And the reason SpinSci came about, I don't know the origin of the spin part, but the sci part is kind of twofold. First of all, it's science, SCI. So, he wanted to have something kind of technical, something science oriented. That's part of it. But there's another part of it that's kind of speaks to his and actually my cultural heritage, being Indian. There's a saint, a Sai Baba, and that was also part of it. Spiritually, he wanted to have that associated with it. So that's how that SpinSci came about. And at least that's my interpretation of what he told me. He can go much further detail on it.
I love that story. That's wonderful, having those different angles, and I've so much respect for any entrepreneur who's bootstrapped a firm and brought it to the level that you guys are at, which is you're doing really well, and looking forward to hearing more about it. But anyway, tell us a little bit about what you do and what is it that drives you guys.
So for us, our tagline is better healthcare interactions. So we started 2005, and Reg started the company. We were working very closely with Cisco, doing a lot of integration work there. And then almost found our sweet spot in healthcare. We started building integrations with organizations like Epic, got in the Epic App Orchard. And then as a byproduct of that, we started to build out these workflows. So we've gone from being, kind of a contact center, Cisco integration shop to becoming contact center experts, and then really bringing these patient access workflows into now, really look at ourselves as a patient engagement solutions provider. So we have, three main solutions. One is outbound communication with patients. One is inbound self-service with patients. Now, the key here is they're all integrated with electronic health record. So there's real-time integration here. So the magic of this is, I know with most of my doctors, when I get a reminder saying, "Hey, you've got an appointment, can you make it yes or no?" If I hit yes, oh, that's great. If I hit no, they say, "Well, please call to reschedule." What we can do is, we can write through the SMS experience there with the patient. We can actually allow them to reschedule, and that hits the EHR in real time. So it deflects a call away from the contact center where they're dealing with 70% of their calls or scheduling. It takes some of that volume away. It gives them, allows them to focus on more critical issues. And for the patient, they're able to take care of that actual workflow right there and then. And we do that for scheduling, for bill payment, pharmacy refill, a variety of different workflows. And then if the patient wants that high-touch experience, they can hit that contact center, and it's a seamless transfer over there. And as soon as that patient's authenticated by the contact center agent, we pull up all relevant information from Epic or Cerner right to the agent's fingertips, so they see who they're talking to, they see the detail about their appointments, their schedules, their what they owe, their outstanding bills, clinical information. If it's a triage nurse, you can see where they've been, what their medications are, things like that.
So it's about operational improvement for the healthcare system, but also patient satisfaction and reduction in no shows. I imagine
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. I mean, it's. I think everybody knows now. It's about 150 billion dollars a year that's lost through no shows and missed appointments. So, very real opportunity there for health systems, and for us, you nailed it. It's about patient engagement, patient experience, and for the health system, it's about really driving that loyalty, retaining the patients, and then of course driving efficiencies.
Yeah, yeah, and being able to do that through text means that it's so easy. So yeah, so Nick, I love your backstory. You're one of these guys who's who's had an unusual journey into marketing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a healthcare guy. That's what I tell people. I started off actually went to medical school and quit medical school and decided to take the business route to healthcare. So the first part of my career was actually working in health systems in administrative leadership roles. And then I really saw, I remember, talking to staff back when I was at Parkland Hospital here in Dallas, and they were, they were complaining about, hey, we got so much on our plates. It's non-clinical, right? I've got to do paperwork. I got to do this, that. And, in my mind, I thought, well, if I can find ways for technology to take some of this work off their plate and let them get back to doing what they trained to do, what they, why they chose that career, that occupation, it was to, lay hands on patients. So that's what intrigued me about technology in healthcare and took me in that direction. But I moved more into account management, customer success. I worked at Premier before I came to SpinSci. I was leading customer success for the West for a lot of their informatics solutions. And then I had things work out in strange ways. I got recruited to a company, or a recruiting company actually. They wanted me to build up their healthcare tech vertical. And I went to my CEO Rudget, who I knew from HIMSS for a few years, and I've been very active with HIMSS. I've been on the board here in Dallas Fort Worth, and I said, hey, I see you've got some open roles, which I'd like to talk to you about what we have to offer. Maybe you can source some of those positions for you. And he said, why are you doing this? I've known you for a couple of years, and recruiting is a great career, but it's something that's kind of in your DNA. And he didn't feel like it was in my DNA, and instead he said, why don't you come join me? And he sold himself and his company to me. And it was an opportunity for me. I'd always, worked with marketing. I'd worked in business development. And, I'd always been kind of a customer to those organizations. I always was very interested. This is a chance to take leadership over both those two areas. And so it was a bit of a no-brainer to me, joining a smaller organization, wearing a lot of hats. But, I've loved the experience, and, it's been great so far. It's a great journey, and
So, having switched over from being sort of on the customer side to now being on the technology side, the vendor side, do you find that it makes you sort of more empathetic? Do you have a better understanding of the customer?
Yeah, yeah, it does, and I think I'm able to really create. I mean, to me, it's all about relationships too. That's when I've been in any of my roles, it's been about me connecting with my healthcare customers. And having been in their shoes, and it's been years since I've been in their shoes. I've been in the site for a while now, but I still feel, that I understand where they're coming from. And when I talk to them, they see that I was once in their shoes also. So it's about building trust, and I think that creates. I'm able to create that rapport with my customers.
So, Nick, you guys are very partnership oriented. I mean, one of the things that I think is so interesting about your firm is that you market through resellers and technology partners. And having been down that journey myself, I know it's one of those things that sounds like it's a no-brainer. It should be a no-brainer because it sounds really easy, but it's really hard to do well. So tell us about first of all, the decision to go down that route, and then how do you do that?
Well, for us being a smaller organization, it's a bit of a no-brainer, to go down the partner route. Now, when we talk about partners for SpinSci, we've really got, 3 or 4 levels. When I put my marketing hat on, there's really 3 or 4 types of persona organizations I'm dealing with. So, we have our ecosystem partners, which is organizations like Epic and Cerner. Also, contact center providers like Cisco, Amazon, Five9, Avaya, Genesys, Vonage. And so, we from a marketing business development perspective, first of all, we've got to manage the integrations, to go to market with all of them. From a marketing perspective, obviously we've got to, deal with them, each of them very differently, provide them with, what they need to succeed on their end. And then we've got our resellers. And the resellers are going to be companies like CDW and Presidio, Converge One. And again, kind of the same, it's going to be different. But again, we got the same type of approach where we've got to, develop go-to-market, do things like account mapping with them, and then provide them the sales enablement tools that they need to help be successful. And then finally, we actually have customers, healthcare customers. So when I'm put on marketing hat, there's 3 or 4 different channels that I've got to look through there. Um, Now, when we talk about our all these various partners, we're becoming more and more agnostic from a technology perspective. So when we look at the EHRs we're working with, we're open up to Epic, Cerner, Athena, ECW, all of these, Allscripts, all of these EHR providers. And then when we talk with the contact centers, again, we're becoming more agnostic. What happens in the market, though, is they're all competing with each other. So for us, we've got to be very cognizant and respectful of that. We've developed a program. We're calling it Partners First. We're doing a soft launch this month, where we're inviting some of our key resellers to come in and actually, we're going to set up platinum, diamond, gold level sponsor or not sponsor, sorry, enrollment in their membership in there. And based upon that, we're going to, they're going to have certain commitment levels to us from a revenue perspective, but they're also going to get, some marketing development funds. They're going to get some leads that we're going to help feed them, and some priorities there for the resellers. But again, it's we've got to be very respectful of both the resellers and the technology partners when we go into deals, and because they're bringing us in, and we want to be very careful if 4 or 5 technology vendors bring us all in their RFP solutions. We got to be very, very careful not to, just to play fair.
Yeah, well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And when do you market also to the end customers?
We do. So we'll do some different types of marketing to them. And actually, one of our we're on a HIMSS sponsored podcast here. I'll say that HIMSS is an avenue we look at. We're a sponsor of HIMSS at a national level, also at a chapter level. And one of the things I'm looking at doing this year is looking at more at the chapters around the country and getting more involved with those, and even doing some road shows where, hey, if we can look at some different HIMSS events in LA or Southern California, New York, New Jersey, Chicago, some of the bigger markets where we have a lot of customers. We'll go to those customers, maybe do some immersion days there, do some evangelizing of our solutions there locally, and then tie it in with maybe supporting a HIMSS event in that same time. So we're looking at how we can take that on the road and do some marketing events in that regard.
It's interesting that you say that about events. We recently did a webinar panel with HIMSS and had 5 leading marketers on the panel, and we talked about events. And one of the key themes that came out of it is that everybody's still trying to figure out where the big events are going to go and how they're going to evolve. But the thing that seems to work really well is either the regional events or sort of small, more targeted events. And I start to see some companies spread the budget between the two, doing the national because you've got to be there, but also for spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to do more sort of targeted micro events. Now, I thought what you guys did at HIMSS was quite clever. Talk about your.
So we are a smaller organization, so we don't have the budgets of some of these huge players. So one of the things that we look at strategically is a couple of things. First of all, we're going to be at HIMSS. We're going to be at the national conference. We're going to attack it very strategically, and we're going to do a couple of things. First of all, we're going to try and get a presence within our partners' space, right? If the reality is what we could afford at HIMSS would be a small booth in the basement somewhere, in the closet somewhere, and that's just not going to be, we're not going to get a lot of traffic. So instead, this year we were in 3 different partner booths. We were in Cisco's booth as part of their patient engagement journey. We were in the Avaya booth. We were also with Unifor. We had a presence there as well. So that's important for it's first of all it is a much more economical way to be able to to get a foot in the door and have a presence there. It also helps build those partnerships further. We're really galvanizing those partnerships. And so to me, it just made a lot of sense. Now, the other thing we like to do around conferences is try maybe do some types of events, networking type events, because again, the exhibit floor, it's great. I've gone to HIMSS for 10, 12, 15 years in a row or something like that. And it's a great experience, but it's so crazy out there. And so what we want to do is be able to get people off the floor, and be able to have some type of networking events where, a little adult beverages helps too, it helps people calm down a little bit. And be able to have some, meaningful discussions in that type of experience. So we actually partnered again with a couple of our key partners. And this last year at HIMSS, we did two socials. We did co-partnered socials. So again, for us, we were able to make it. Actually, I should take a step back. But we had a couple other partners join. So we had about 3 or so partners at each event. And again, we were able to share the cost and have some real meaningful conversations there. So I think that's how we'll probably continue to approach this. At the Texas Regional Conference that we had last week here, we had about 500 people show up for that. Did the same thing. We hosted an exhibit. We didn't do a booth. We just did sponsored the happy hour at the exhibit floor networking event. And that was great too. We got to have a presence there, and it was again a time where people were coming by and made some great connections.
I think that you did a very good job with social media with that event too. I spend quite a lot of time on LinkedIn, and and the way that you marketed what you were doing at that event, I thought stood out. I noticed it. And I think it was a combination of a couple of things from what I remember. One was frequency. I mean, you seem to have something every couple of days and during the event, maybe multiple times a day. And the other thing was it seemed to be less about your company and more about sort of celebrating what was going on, which I think,
exactly.
Yeah. So it felt less like advertising and more like,
yeah.
But the benefit, but by doing that, you raise your brand profile. So I thought you did a very good job with that.
I like to think if I'm following some company on LinkedIn, I don't want to hear about their product over and over again. What I want to hear about is, hey, tell me something meaningful. You're at HIMSS. What are you hearing at HIMSS? What are cool things that are happening? We just did a blog on our website for the Texas Regional where I broke down some of the key messaging we heard there about automation, about access to care, things like that, which all aligned with my personal mission and what we're trying to do at SpinSci. So I just try and make see it's got to mean something, because otherwise people tune out. So I'm not going to sit there and post patient notified does this, patient engaged does this. I mean, I want to help educate them in a sense.
And that's it. It's helpful insight, that, Nick, because we've done a lot of research with HIMSS, and there's a general theme here of marketers trying to move away from email because it's less effective and it's intrusive.
Yeah,
we all do it. I mean, I do it. But moving towards social media, and I think it seems to come out in the research time and time again that companies are still trying to figure it out. So the way that you're doing, I think, is interesting.
And at this, I mentioned this last conference I went to last week, and John Manis is the CIO for Christus Health, and if you ever get a chance to hear him speak, he's amazing. But he had a stat there that said 71% of our population is Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, or millennial. And what he said essentially is they're born with a phone in their hand, and many of them don't even use it as a phone. It's a device to receive messages, send messages. So it's changed. We're a patient engagement company, right? It's changed the way that we interact, and it's a reality. I'm old school. I still tell my kids, hey, get on the phone and call someone, but they just don't do it anymore. So.
I know the one way I know to really annoy my millennial son is to leave him a voicemail, particularly a long one.
Yeah. Well, I ask my kids, why don't you have a message on your voicemail? Like, I don't know.
On the what?
Yeah.
Well, Nick, thank you. I appreciate these insights. So, Nick, as we come to a close here, I've got a question that I ask all our guests, and that is, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, what would that be? Something that you wish you'd known earlier in life.
By Tesla? I don't know.
That's a good one.
So I think,
or Apple, or Amazon.
or Apple. Apple was actually, the funny story about that is I remember when I was a 15-year-old kid or 16-year-old kid, and I got an Apple IIe, and my parents brought it in. I was trying to get my dad, you should buy stock in this company, and he didn't. But it was. I thought that was revolutionary right there. It's a good question. One thing I could have told myself. Obviously the easy answer is Tesla or Apple, but I think for me, some key things for me, I've evolved as, we all evolve as individuals and professionally also. I think for me, when I first got into the professional world, I was a bit closed off. I wasn't, I wasn't, my communication skills really lacked. And part of that was I just felt so uncomfortable going to people and networking. And to me, I tell, my kids that I tell our new employees that it's like, do not, what's the worst thing that can happen if you go up to somebody and engage them? Maybe they'll turn away. What's the harm of that though? Be willing to open up your barriers, go beyond your comfort zone is really what I try and tell people. And I think I would have told myself that is just push yourself beyond your comfort zones, because that's how you learn. That's how you evolve.
Yeah, that's great. That's really good. Well, your communication skills have definitely improved. And actually having been to, one of your social events, you don't have a problem with networking anymore. So well done.
Well,
you've conquered that.
Funny story. One other funny story. I went to A&M, Texas A&M for grad school, and these are 22 to 26, 20, 30-year-old grad students, right? The most feared class, the one that people dropped out the most, was a 1-hour course. It was speech and technical writing. And they all dropped out when they had to give a speech. These are guys that are going, MBA students. And back then, in the early 90s, it was a fear of public speaking. Yeah. You can't imagine it now, but
that's amazing. Actually, it's really surprising. So Nick, thank you. It's been a great pleasure having you on the podcast. I appreciate your insights and your candor. Anyway, so before we go though, a message for folks who are listening, which is you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple or Spotify, or there's actually 7 or 8 different channels we publish this podcast on. And if you're listening to the podcast and you want to see what these 2 handsome guys talking, you can check out the video through the link in the notes. I hope you subscribe. We've got a great program of guests coming up. We're going to keep doing these every couple of weeks. And I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank Nick again. And by the way, if you're out there and you've got an idea and somebody you think would be good to have on the show, you can email me at adam@healthlaunchpad.com or just connect to me on LinkedIn.